This is H.R. 29, also known as the Laken-Riley Act. Laken-Riley, who the bill is named after, was a 22-year-old nursing student attending the University of Georgia, whose murderer, Jose Antonio Ibarra, was an illegal alien from Venezuela who entered the United States illegally in September 2022. Ibarra was apprehended after crossing the southern border and was subsequently released into the country. Over the next year and a half, he would be arrested several times, including an October 2023 arrest in Athens, Georgia, for shoplifting from a Walmart. After he was released and failed to appear in court, a bench warrant was issued for his arrest in December 2023. Laken-Riley would be murdered by Ibarra 2 months later. So, what would the Laken-Riley Act do to possibly prevent a similar situation from happening? Well, here's Representative Tom McClintock of California.
The Laken-Riley Act would require ICE detention for illegal aliens who are charged with, arrested for, or convicted of any burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting offense. H.R. 29 further requires the Department of Homeland Security to issue a detainer for those illegal aliens and take custody of them effectively and expeditiously.
So had this law been in place, Ibarra would have been arrested and handed over to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, where he would have been detained while the case played out. This all seems like common sense, right? Here's Congressman Mike Collins on the matter.
That's why the Laken-Riley Act is so simple. Right now, local law enforcement can't contact ICE unless it's a major crime. Are we going to let every illegal criminal that comes over here, who already broke the law by breaking into our homes, our country, are we going to let them just continue to escalate the crime to the point where it gets to murder? Oh, by the way, now we'll arrest you. No. We need to kick them out with these low-level crimes. We need to go ahead and detain them, process them, and deport them.
Again, this is all common sense, right? Well, not to many Democrats.
This bill is so broad that it would lead to the detention of people who have committed no crime and have no intention of harming anyone.
Wrong, because if they illegally cross the border, they have committed a crime. But please continue.
This legislation would subject to mandatory detention any undocumented immigrants who are merely charged with committing an act of theft or shoplifting, even if they are innocent.
This bill would upend 28 years of mandatory immigration detention policy by requiring that any undocumented immigrant arrested for theft, larceny, or shoplifting be detained even if they are never convicted or even charged with a crime.
This means that someone who's merely accused of shoplifting, someone who might be innocent, who might be the victim of mistaken identity, and who has not had the opportunity to clear his name, would be subject to mandatory detention.
Well, this person will have the opportunity to clear their name while in detention. And what Raskin and Nadler are failing to mention is that these illegal border crossers technically shouldn't be in the country in the first place. Here's the sponsor of the bill in the Senate, Katie Britt from Alabama.
Yeah, so if you think about it, when you come across the border, let's say you're seeking asylum, what is actually mandatory right now is for you to be detained while that process moves forward.
But instead of keeping illegal border crossers detained, the Biden administration released them into the country by the millions. So if someone who shouldn't be here in the first place is going to break the law, they should absolutely be detained, right?
This is a fundamental due process issue. This bill allows for the deportation and removal of undocumented immigrants who have simply been charged, alleged, to have committed deportable crimes. To deport people simply accused of crimes who have neither admitted it nor been convicted of it. That is not how our system of due process works. That's not how the rule of law works in this country.
But this has nothing to do with due process. If you are in the country illegally, you should be detained regardless of whether you have committed an additional crime or not.
We have 11 million illegal immigrants in this nation. Of that, 7.8 million of those are actually in removal proceedings. Of the 7.8 that are in removal proceedings, Jake, 1.4 million of those have been given final orders of removal, meaning they have been given due process, and we have said it is time for you to leave.
But many Democrats refuse to take any of that into consideration. Instead, they're going to lie about Republicans' intentions.
So let us be clear. This is the Republican playbook over and over again. Scare people about immigrants.
And this is the Democrat playbook over and over again, conflating legal immigrants with illegal immigrants.
The Republican majority is beginning this new Congress right where they left off in the last one, with legislation that targets and scapegoats immigrants, but does nothing to address the real problems in our broken immigration system.
Look, it's very clear that House Republicans are going to push an anti-immigrant agenda.
And ultimately, the message is, that some people feel is, are you going to be tough on immigrants or not?
My Republican colleagues simply want to preserve a broken immigration system as a campaign issue so that they can scapegoat and demonize immigrants.
Lies. It's all they have. Pathetic, really. So as you can see, there is no legitimate argument against the Laken-Riley Act. So instead, Democrats are gonna make shit up. Here's Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal from Washington.
So let me give you an example. A shopkeeper doesn't like the way somebody looks when they walk into the store. They accuse that person of shoplifting. That person is immediately arrested by the police and immediately turned over and mandatorily detained by within the criminal justice system. That person has not had a trial. There is no evidence that that person actually committed the crime that they're accused of, and yet they are mandatorily detained.
So this lawmaker is saying that someone can be accused and arrested for shoplifting with zero evidence. She's either being incredibly dishonest or she's legitimately that stupid. Or both, I don't know.
This bill would mandate immigration detention for an undocumented immigrant if they are arrested for shoplifting, even if they're never charged or convicted for that offense.
But this undocumented immigrant shouldn't be here in the first place, so don't care.
You steal a candy bar, hand on the shoulder, the clerk says, wait a minute, what are you doing here? Next thing you know, a policeman's called in, he arrests you for shoplifting. They then take you in and charge you with that crime. You make a plea, guilty or not guilty, and ultimately it's resolved by a trial of some nature.
First of all, most shoplifting goes well beyond the theft of candy bars. According to Capital One shopping research, the average shoplifting incident in 2020 cost retailers nearly $462.
The question is whether or not someone should be deported at the very first time that the hand reaches your shoulder with your candy bar in hand, but no charge of any crime. That is what this bill does. That's going a little bit too far as I'm personally concerned.
But Dick Durbin isn't considering that while this may be their first shoplifting offense, it's probably not the first time they've shoplifted. According to Capital One shopping research, stores only catch shoplifters roughly 2% of the time. The average shoplifter is arrested once out of every 100 incidents. But Dick Durbin is basically like, stealing candy isn't really a big deal. It's only larceny.
Consider a young dreamer or TPS recipient who's with a group of friends after school and someone in the group shoplifts, stealing a candy bar. To scare the whole group straight, everyone's arrested, whether they were involved in the shoplifting or not.
So according to Jamie Raskin, the police are going to arrest a group of, say, a half dozen kids for stealing a single candy bar? I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. However, migrants stealing a Snickers bar is small potatoes compared to the real problem of migrant shoplifting millions of dollars in merchandise from retailers. But let's not talk about that. Let's keep talking about candy bars.
Many of us in Congress are parents. Imagine your child is with a group of kids grabbing an after-school snack at a 7-Eleven, and one of them chooses to just snitch a little candy bar off the shelf. The shop owner calls the police, and all the kids are arrested for shoplifting. If your child is a DACA recipient, someone who has lived here nearly their entire life, they are now subject to mandatory detention under this bill.
So what Pramila Jayapal is saying is that if you're a member of the House of Representatives, a requirement of which is that you have to have been an American citizen for at least 7 years, that you might have a young child who is a DACA recipient. Makes sense to me. What's your problem?
It opens the doors for people simply being charged without a conviction to be detained and deported. That includes minors, that includes dreamers, that's shoplifting a pack of bubble gum.
The issue is that if you're an illegal alien who should not be in the country, or a dreamer who has been given the privilege of being allowed to work and live in the United States, and you choose to commit any crime, it's bye-bye time.
ICE told my office that this legislation would require them to detain more than 65,000 immigrants. But Congress has only provided ICE with funding to detain 42,000, and the agency is already holding nearly that many.
Dick Durbin is admitting that ICE would have to detain tens of thousands of illegal alien shoplifters, which means, yes, migrant crime is a legitimate problem. The fact that Democrats are more concerned with migrants being detained for committing crimes than they are over the actual crimes they commit, well, it's why you have 4 more years of Donald Trump. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time, if there is a next time.